Hello and welcome. My name is Meepolis, she, they, and this is Literally Graphic. And today we are taking a look at the first Animorphs graphic novel adaptation, The Invasion, adapted by Chris Grine. Content notes for alien invasion, loss of family, character death, mind control, animal fighting, and slugs crawling in and out of ears, which was the thing that freaked me out the most as a child. As far as the depiction of violence goes, while this is a children's comic, it was the first action-adventure comic that really leaned into the violence that I've read in a while. Not terribly gory, but the sort of general bloodless violence society sees as child-friendly. The official synopsis for this initial volume is as follows, quote, "Sometimes weird things happen to people. Ask Jake. He could tell you about the night he and his friends saw a strange light in the sky that seemed to be heading right for them. That was the night 5 normal kids learned that humanity is under a silent attack and were given the power to fight back. Now Jake, Rachel, Cassie, Tobias, and Marco can transform into some of the most dangerous creatures on Earth, and they must use that power to outsmart an evil greater than anything the world has ever seen." And once again, I must admit to being very biased towards this series. Obviously, no longer part of the demographic this comic is aimed at, Animorphs was my jam back in elementary school. My mother, trying to get me to read more, made the mistake of recommending the series to me in a month where the cover morph was pretty germane. Jake changing into his golden retriever, if I'm not mistaken. So far, she's admitted at least once that she regretted it later as the series looked too weird or something. And yes, it is very weird, but the series continues to live in a very fond part of my heart. Although, as I already noted, they rendered me extremely paranoid, especially late at night when I was supposed to be going to sleep. Keywords that came to mind reading this volume were war, unknown enemy, aliens, and good versus evil. Digging into the art specifically, I did find it a bit rounded at times. I could see it being a kid-friendly style, I guess, but the nose designs in particular were not my favorite. It also felt like Cassie's hair was not detailed enough. It just sort of looks blobby in a way that really doesn't do justice to her natural hair texture. And while I thought the Andalite and Taxons were rendered pretty well, the Hork-Bajir seemed a bit oversimplified compared to how they have been shown previously. The wording of the graphic novel seems to have been a fairly close reproduction of the dialogue in the book, so no complaints there. Looking into the more behind-the-scenes details about the series, it was interesting to learn more about all the people who are involved in the creation of the Animorphs series, namely Katherine Applegate and her husband, Michael Grant, along with a whole host of ghostwriters, because they were churning out so many books a year. One of the things that stood out to me then and still stands out to me now is the way that each K.A. Applegate series brings in a variety of perspectives to any given story. This meant that we are following a decently diverse group of young people, each of them very unique and memorable. Gender is a binary, but we do get some variety in gender expression as well as racial diversity. Each person comes from a different family situation, and as the series continues, each book was originally written from a different member's perspective. That said, the book is definitely of the 90s, and some of the internal commentary people have about each other felt a bit dated. The dynamics of the group so far also struck me as very interesting, with each character having a different perspective on if they should actually fight the Yeerks or not. Some of them are already friends, and some of them are wary of each other. It felt nicely nuanced, and like each of the characters had their strong points and weaknesses. Class is somewhat explored through the character of Tobias, but this is mostly just shown as a negative thing that involves a lot of trauma and struggle. But that's sometimes the reality, especially for children who feel like they have no control over their lives. Disability versus ability doesn't feel like it was touched on at all in this volume, and even as relationships start to blossom later on, unless they change things up, I will warn you that everything is pretty heteronormative. As far as ratings go, I think I'll be going with a 3 out of 5 stars. I'm interested in revisiting how the series treats children being thrust into war, but at this point it's hard to say it's anything more than just good, although good is solid in my opinion, so I guess I shouldn't say just good. Bye y'all, keep reading and resist white supremacy. And as always, Literally Graphic is created on land that should be given back to the traditional landholders, which in this case is, to my knowledge, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, non-Anishinaabe people, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat Nation.